I would appreciate very much, while we're in session, that you do not text anyone unless you're doing 911 first. Okay? It's very distracting. And I've been doing these seminars for 30 some years. And the best one, you're only going to remember 15% of. So if you got a phone, it's even less than that, because it'll distract you. So today, make believe there's nothing but us here. And I want to thank every single one of you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the venue that we have, the place that we have. It's really about getting together. And my part today on creating and analyzing, creating and using KPIs. Anyone want to tell me what a KPI is?
Key performance indicator.
It's an indicator, a key performance indicator. So companies that have lots of people in them use it, right? But companies that are small don't need KPIs. Is that true or false?
False.
How about if you're the only salesman? You're the owner and you're the only salesman. Do you need a KPI?
Yes.
Yeah, how are you going? I'm going to prove it to you today. I thought about this. And I said, I don't have any notes. I didn't write anything down. I said, you know what? If I don't know this by now, I'm in trouble. Every single part of my business has a KPI. The only one I don't have a KPI on is my wife. It's true. I have KPIs on every part of my business. And you have to. You know why? Because you will never succeed if you don't. I'm going to prove it to you. We as human beings don't like to be put into a program or a system. How well do you follow? Okay, I'll give you an example. How many of you have ever tried to lose weight? Come on, be honest. All of us, right? How about that cruise you took for 7 days and got home and you were 20 pounds more than when you went on? And then you have to lose weight. What are the obstacles about attaining the weight loss? What's the first thing you have to do to lose weight?
Weigh yourself.
Yeah. You got to know where you're starting at. Well, I'm 250 pounds. Next thing is what?
Goal.
A goal. If you don't have a goal, how do you know how much weight to lose? Oh, even the we in these programs, hey, by the way, you remember the we? I got on it the other day. It says, Steve, where you been for 3 years? It's like, oh, wow. Hey, and you've lost weight since then. Hey, all right, I'm going back on this thing. But those things, the reason they help is because you're setting yourself up for success. The guy who says, I want to lose weight, or the person who says, I want to lose weight, and doesn't weigh themselves, how are they going to succeed? Now, beside weighing yourself, what else do you do when you want to lose weight? What does she do with her students? Wendy's a coach to help you lose weight. What does she do?
She makes you accountable for every single thing you do.
Okay, so first time you're going to go lose weight, what do? You have somebody take a picture of you with no clothes on. No, I'm going to tell you. That'll make it really effective. But you see in other words, I want a year from now, I want to look at that picture and I want to say, hey, I'm not that big anymore, right? If you don't take the picture, how do you even know? Because our memories don't work well. Nobody likes to follow programs. Do you? Anybody? Let's take another one. Baseball. We all love baseball, right? How do you know who's the best batter? How do you know? And if there's only one batter, yourself, how do you know how well you're doing? Statistics. What do? You track how many times you go up to the bat, how many times you hit the ball, and it's a simple math solution, right? It's a percentage. So if you get up one time and you hit a hit, you are batting 1,000%, right? If you go up 2 times and you only make 1 hit, you're batting how much?
500.
Simple, right? Okay. In order to get better, you have to know where you were. Where you were now, where you're gonna be in a month, where you're gonna be in a year. Put yourselves out in any program that you want. Like right now in our company, Mike, what's our dollar per stop
For
the-
service,
for service?
the service, it's just under 400.
You don't know exactly?
380. Oh, I can pull it up right now.
I'm teasing.
I can pull it up right now.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask all of you, in your company, if you have servicemen who are going out,
369, Steve.
369 a stop. Okay, so I knew that, by the way. It changes from week to week. But we do it tracking individually and collectively. Do you know why? It's like on a baseball team. You do the batter's individual stats, and then you do the whole team stat, right? So the whole team's batting average is this much. Why do they do that?
For benchmarks, you gotta gauge your performance. What's
Yes,
the synergy?
gauging
How's it
your
working?
Performance. It's also gonna tell you which team has the best batters. Okay, so in each case, I've been thinking of all the things. Now, I'm gonna tell you one I deal with, blood pressure. Okay? Did you know, a lot of people have high blood pressure, right? So if you're on a regimen to lower your blood pressure, what do you have to do in order to succeed? You have to check it. If you check it once a year, is it gonna work? No. The only way that you know your blood pressure is by checking it regularly every day, right? And then, when you see something like, geez, my blood pressure went up 10 points, I wonder what that was for. You realize it was that call from the office that stressed me out, right? So you realize, and you are able to start controlling your blood pressure by your own body. Your own body manipulating your circumstances. It works. It works. It's amazing. But you can't do anything unless you track. Okay, so KPI, I've been preaching this now for how many years? And if we were to go around most of our contractors, if I were to ask you your salesperson's dollar per lead, what does that mean? It means, okay, salesman gets 10 leads this week, he sells 3. What's his dollar per lead?
Depends what they sold for.
So the total amount of those 3 jobs equal $30,000. So how would you figure his dollar per lead?
$3,000.
Right. I want to hire him. You're about a $3,000 per lead, you better snatch him up. And it depends. Your dollar per lead is going to be perhaps a little bit different than another company's dollar per lead. And then all of a sudden, you know what happens? Weather conditions, economy, different things in different territories. And all of a sudden, we can look out and we can see, hey, what's going on in New Jersey? Their dollar per lead is through the roof. So here's why I'm saying this. I figured out why most of you don't really track your company. What might be the reasons that a person wouldn't want to track? Let's bring it back to weight or blood pressure.
You don't wanna know.
You don't want to know. It's true. If you don't do it, it's probably because you really don't want to know. You're afraid of the results. And there goes accountability. So imagine if all of us pulled together and every week, Adam, all your salespeople figures get uploaded into one database, so to speak, where all of us, every single sale around the entire country is collectively put into a dollar per lead program nationwide. If we could do that, this is what we're doing individually, collectively, and really collectively. So you're gonna individually look at you as an individual. What's my dollar per lead? The salesman could look at that. Now he could look at his company's figures and says, well, the company, my dollar per lead is 1,800. My average dollar per lead for my company is 2,000. Well, why am I lower than my average for my company? Now, you look on the average for the company and you see somebody doing $2,400 per lead. That allows you to start analyzing. Why is he able to do $2,400 per lead, but I can only do 2,000 or 1,800? What is it that he's doing that I'm not doing? You see? Now, if you could collectively, if we could do this as a group nationwide, you could look at what the whole network's dollar per lead is. Now your company could look and say, the whole network's dollar per lead is this. My company's this. So I'm doing good, or I'm not doing so good. So the companies that have the higher dollar per lead, let me kind of find out what they're doing. And that's what the power of a network is. Do you know that? And yet what we see a lot of times, contractors, Joe and I were talking about this last night. How many contractors are the type of people just like to follow everything you say? I mean, they're entrepreneurs. What entrepreneur do you know just kind of doesn't imagine or think or build? So a lot of times in a network, what happens, they take the information and they say, okay, how can I tweak this and make it mine? And sometimes what that does is it dilutes the strength. I'm not saying that that's wrong or anything. You do what you want for your own companies, that's good. But if we could collectively track one another and help one another, I'm gonna ask, what is the number one thing to help you to keep on track to keeping KPIs? And if you bring it to weight, even though most of you can do it yourself, a coach, right? A coach is gonna make you accountable. They're gonna say at the end of the week, what's your weight this week? And you have to tell somebody that. See, if you just do it yourself in your company and what's your KPI? And you say, I don't care. But somebody now asks you, what's your KPI? And you can't tell them, what's that tell them? Tell them you're not tracking. If you're not tracking, you'll never get better. It's that simple. That's my whole pot, so. Any questions?
My
Joe?
one guy goes in, sells used cars. My other guy goes in, sells Hyundais, and the other one sells Rolls Royces. There's nothing I could do. One's 1,800, one's 2,900, the other one's 4,800 per stop. But he sells everything. He sells stuff that they don't even know that they could even get.
Right.
So the one guy's great at building value, the other's guy's good
The
at
one
selling
guy's
volume.
basement systems guy. He worked at basement systems. Like,
So-
man, it's hard. But he's the best guy though.
Do they see each other's
Service,
numbers
sales. Yeah.
so they can compete with each other?
Five.
So,
And the other
You've got
two
more
are-
to say, I don't mean to interrupt.
no, I don't.
One of my questions would be, out of curiosity, particularly when we're collectively together, is it may be worth mentioning what some of those KPIs are specifically and make a list so we can all evaluate, cross-evaluate. I know my weakness with this is just the fact that we haven't made the true initiative to identify what KPIs we should have in my business and then put together a program to track them. We've made strides, in the last year to do that, but I'm weak on KPIs. We have some that are very important, but you're endlessly improving, so then my question becomes, what's next? What are the next things that I should really start to refine? So what are the KPIs is really my question.
Okay, so in your company, Adam, what are the main components of your company? The main, some people call them departments. Dan has a nice sheet that I like that's called the pipeline. But you really got different groups. You got sales, you got service, you got production, you got office, you got billing, accounting, right? So KPIs, I can tell you what, in our company, the ones that I look at every single day, every single week. And I'm in Texas, and I can tell exactly what's going on in my company by looking at those KPIs. And if you drill down, you can even find out why something has changed. So, but let's take the simplest one. Salespeople, we've already talked about it. How many leads do you give them? How much money do they bring back on those leads? That's a simple formula, right? Everybody got that? How many leads? How much money did they sell? And I would recommend that you do this on a weekly basis and a yearly basis. So do a year to date. So Rick, if you're looking at your numbers, you see this is your KPI for average dollar per lead for this week. This is what it is for the month. This is what it is year to date. So you can see if you're bringing your year to date up or down. That's simple for salespeople, right? Number of leads, how much income did they bring in, and that's your dollar per lead, divided by the number of jobs they sold. I don't track closing ratio, doesn't mean a thing to me. Because anybody could sell something if they lower the price. So what's a closing ratio mean? Some guy comes to me and says, I closed 50%. Well, let me tell you a story about Manny and Joe, who went to Mexico and got a bunch of watermelons to sell, okay? They came back to Texas with all these watermelons. They're on the side of the road and they're selling like hotcakes. And Manny says to Joe, he says, hey, they keep selling like this, we're gonna have to go get more. He says, yeah, well, the problem is, see, they were buying them for $1 and they were selling them for $1. Okay, so what's KPI? What the closing ratio there doesn't mean nothing. How much profit did they make? You know?
They lost money.
Yeah, they did gas money.
But if you monitored your conversion rate and you monitored your average dollar per sale, one benefit there is that it gives you the ability to predict your cash flow based on, say, a goal. So one of the things I'm working with Dan on is I want, my business being small, but I want 50 high quality leads in a given month. I know if my conversion rate's 3 or 4 or 3.5, my average dollar per sale I can see here is $5,400. You can quickly do the math and figure out where you're gonna be, create your goal for the end of the year.
Right.
So I get your point, but I guess to my point in that case is your KPIs are so individual per company, and that's what makes it challenging to identify them.
Right, so that's the first one, $1 per lead. Now, $1 per stop is the same thing for a service guy. He gets 4 stops in a day. In those 4 stops, he generates $1,000. What's his dollar per stop?
$250.
$250. It means that, to me, it's so simple to look and say, now I know every time I give that guy 4 leads, if he's bringing me $1,000 every 4 leads, his dollar per stop's $250, which is lower than the $369 that Mike just said. So I would look at that and I would say, how can we help this guy? What is he not selling, or why is his dollar per stop less than this other guy who's at $450 per stop? They're both servicing. Well, when you start looking at it, you're gonna find out exactly why. Oh, this guy sold a wise ear. This guy didn't sell any wise ears. Because selling one wise ear, what would that do to if you're doing 20 visits, 20 stops a week, Mike, do the math for me. 20 stops a week, what is one wise ear going in 95? What is that gonna do to a person's, let's say they're doing 20 stops.
It's $19.95 for the unit.
And they add $50.
Divided by 20.
So you're gonna increase about $50 per stop,
Yep.
right?
Just by selling one out of 20.
So a lot of times, what you need to do with your staff, especially service or salespeople, I don't look at what they sell. I look at what they don't sell. Just, that's a hint for you. Sometimes you might look at a salesman, he's a good salesman, but he never sells a dehumidifier. Maybe he's afraid of it. Maybe he's not comfortable enough yet. That happens with our pump geek. We have contractors that we're looking forward to getting them to install our pump geek. I think they're afraid of it because it's new. So we're gonna help you this trip. And we're happy to say we're making real good progress on this. Okay, let's look at now your outgoing calls. We even have a KPI for outgoing calls. So how many calls does the person from our office making an outgoing call, how many times do they do that in a day? And how many of them are converted into actual appointments, whether it be service appointment or an estimate on outgoing calls? So it's real easy. When they start tracking, Dee, could you explain what happened when we started tracking people that started tracking themselves, so to speak?
Maybe someone else, I don't have my voice, so.
No, it's all right.
Oh, no, it's from,
Oh,
I can't speak too well, so maybe Mike could explain, he understands.
Yeah, so,
Go ahead.
you're talking about the call center, right?
yes.
Okay, so, basically, we were able to see what their conversion rate was versus, not knowing. So, for example, I'll pull up, Wednesday's numbers. For Rosa, she made 46 outgoing maintenance calls. She scheduled 3 of them, and then 2 came in, and then another 2 came in. So she scheduled, 7 out of 46 calls, a little over 10%. Well, no, sorry, almost 20%. So we got to see what these girls were actually doing, and then you can actually track, and see, how they're handling these calls. So for example, if you see the number of calls go up to the number of conversions go down, then they're not spending much time on the phone. Hey, do you want a maintenance buy? Hey, do you want a maintenance buy? And then if you look at the calls where they made less in a day but converted more, that shows you that they're spending more time with the customer on the phone. So you can kind of see, how your girls or guys are doing just based on the amount of calls and what they're closing.
Mike,
You know.
how are you guys tracking this?
Every day, we have an Excel form, actually, it's not even Excel, it's on Notes from Apple Notes, but it's an Excel, Excel, it looks like an Excel form, but it's not. And every day, at the end of the day, they put in how many calls they made, how many they converted, how many incoming came in, how many postcards they sent out,
that's
and
part
they
of
get
the
sent
daily duty.
every single day.
So,
Well,
so
every
almost
workday.
every department at the end of the day sends like a lead, like a email on basically their performance that day, and then at the end of the week, that gets put into a bigger
Okay.
form, and then at that week, we're able to put it all into an Excel to send to Steve,
Yeah.
so.
So it's done daily and then weekly.
You're kind of having them do a lot of the work.
Yes.
Yeah, we do it, the
There's a-
office does it,
There's
yeah.
a reason for that.
Yeah.
We found, because I could get those numbers without all of them having to do that.
Ring
But by
sensor.
making them all having to do it, they're actually having to do it. So,
And they
They're
see
paying
it.
attention to
yeah,
this.
and they're paying attention to themselves. We had one girl that said to me, she wanted to know, how is it that this other girl could do this? And I said, well, that's what you want to happen. See, if you didn't track, the one girl would just sit around saying, everything's cool. But when you put her up against the rest of the group and she sees she's not doing what the rest of the group is doing, her first question to me was, why? And that's where you want your employee to be. When they come to you and say, how can I be a better employee? Hello? I mean, now you got a way
So beautiful.
to give them, this is how you can do it. Oh, why don't you work with so-and-so for a week? Sit beside them and listen to them, see what they say, see what they do. Now, everybody's different. Not everybody, we found that out, but this is another reason why you want to track. When we put somebody into the call center who's making outgoing calls, who is no good at it, okay, the rest of the girls don't want to tell on anybody. You never want to tell on your employee, she sucks. Who's going to do that? How are you going to know as an owner? Well, you get these KPIs, they'll come to you and tell you they suck. I'm not kidding you. They do, don't they? They say, Mike, I'm suck. What can you do to help me? I'm making a joke out of it, but it's so, if you didn't track, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know that they're not good.
Or they're good.
Or they're good. And by the way, if they do know they're good, that gives those people even more confidence to be better. I've never seen somebody doing $400 and some dollar per lead stop. And all of a sudden, it's very, very seldom, you'll see them drop down. Well, I'll see that in Texas. I'll call up Mike, what's going on with so-and-so? Something's up. Or I'll try to find out. Come to find out, they get an issue at home, something's bothering them. As an employer, it's your responsibility to make sure your employees are tip-top. And you're only with them 8 hours a day or so. They've got another life. So what's affecting them outside of work could be affecting their performance inside. And you wouldn't know it unless you tracked.
I mean, two of the guys worked at Basement Systems, and when they come in every day, I say, "How you guys doing? How's everything? Are you do you need anything?" And then after like a couple months, they said to me, they worked at Basement Systems, and they said that not one day did anybody ask them how they were actually doing.
Crazy.
Not one day did anybody ever ask them, "Do you need anything? I make your life better? Can I help? Do you need anything you need? You need gloves? What do you need?" And I would always ask them every day, and they would thank me for that. And then that was like a huge thing for them, that you actually care for them. That was just, that's what they keep telling me, is like they could never be happier. So.
Company culture.
Yep.
Steve, on the call center though, before you jump from there, well, we always looked at it, there are 3 different KPIs for the call center because there's 3 different functions. So you were mentioning the service function, right, Mike? So that's one, right? Following up, calling past customers, trying to get them converted to be on the annual service program. That's one KPI. Then there's incoming calls, right? Anytime somebody calls in, that should be 90%, right? Because it's coming in.
Yep.
All you got to do is answer it and set the appointment. So that's an appointment setting one. So a KPI for that one. And then the third one is the outbound for lead gen. So let's say somebody fills out an internet form and they hit send, right? Their data is there, but you don't have that lead yet. You've got to actually call that lead back, right? And try to get them converted. That's a little more difficult than just taking a call. So we track that one too. So we got 3 separate KPIs for this, and it could be one person in your call center doing all 3 at different times. So that's just so we know, if we just track one KPI, it's not really telling us, because you've got a lot of different things in there, incoming, outbound, service. So, it's a little more work, but if we can track all 3, we really have an idea. And then you guys have found that some might be better at one thing
Right.
than the other. So now, wow, this one is great at this. It's a harder thing to do, outbound. Let's put her on all the outbound, right? And let's put the one that's not as good on outbound and all the inbound.
Right.
Those, like you're saying, if you don't have that data, you can't make those decisions.
And then, so two other KPIs real quick, and then I'm gonna turn this over to Mike. One is, in our accounting, I wanna know the percentage of my accounts receivable that are over 90 days. That's my KPI. So, my KPI, every week, my accounting department sends me a percentage. They'll tell me 18% one week, 7% another week. That percent number tells me what amount of money is owed to me over 90 days. So if I see 18%, I'm getting nervous. And I'm gonna call up, first thing I'm gonna do is tell Dee. Then Dee's gonna call up and she's gonna contact Mike. And Mike's gonna go around and he's gonna get everybody to try to go and collect these, because that's our cash flow. And that one number with me in Texas tells me if I need to do anything or not. If I got 7% KPI on accounts receivable over 90 days, it's like, wow, what's wrong? We better get more people owing us money. It's like, it's almost a negative thing. But then we don't want to, there's a sweet spot. As long as it's in a certain range, I'm cool for that week. I don't have to investigate. But boy, I'll tell you what, you see that KPI, that accounts receivable go up to like 20%, you'll start seeing my blood pressure. Oh yeah, there's something's going on. And then usually I get on the phone and start making some calls. If they can't collect, I'll go after them. So, but that's another one. And then the last one that we use is production. And crews don't really sell a lot. And how can you track your crew is compared to other crews? And it's simple. You track their dollar per man hour. How many man hours did they put in this week? How much money did they generate for the company? And that comes out to $1 per man hour. Mike, you know your crew's dollar per man hour?
130.
You knew I was gonna ask, didn't you?
I had it open the whole time. No, I had it open the whole time.
So 130.
130.
So $130 every man hour is what the crews are collectively doing. Now, do you have all the crews doing that?
No, well, Roman, top dog, is at 170. Jamie's at 123. Thomas is at 124. And then our newest guy, Kervin, is doing some repair work, so he's at like 65. But that's, he's doing a lot of, he's paying his dues right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Roman used to be under 110.
Yeah.
So he's at 170 per man hour.
Yep.
So his crew's making $60 more an hour for us. Would you think he would have done that if we didn't track? If we didn't track, we wouldn't even know what he did.
I think that's the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
So once you know these numbers, now it's easy. Because you say to a crew, how can they, you know what they start looking at? The crews start looking at their dollar per man hour. And you go to the crew, now I got this one crew chief, he's got the microwave in the back of the truck. He buys his guys lunches. We don't leave to go lunch anywhere. We get lost. It's 2 hours we waste. So if we don't do that, I can increase my dollar per man hour. They realize it. And they know that if they're increasing the dollar per man hour, they're increasing their pay because every one of my employees is incentivized. So they're based on their performance.
So I was just telling these, Steve, because with my crews, you know, I share this information with them, but I'm very careful because you don't want one crew chief going, oh, he put in $100,000 more than me, he gets better jobs, you know. So it's like I'm very easy with what I show, but I always show them the dollar per man hour because you know it's a good gauge and they're pretty close to each other. And then probably about half, like midway point through the year, and then at the end, I'll go to that crew chief individually and say, this is what you put in, this is how many hours, this is your dollar per man hour. So they know what everyone's doing as far as dollar per man hour, but total installed, I kind of keep that individually to the crew chief. Just crew guys are weird.
You're right, Mike,
Like that's
because
Yeah.
politics
Healthy
destroys everything.
Yeah, and it's a very tight-knit group, but it's when it comes to that one number, how much they put in for the year, they never look at it as themselves. They go, no, that guy's getting better jobs. So,
It's always looking out the window, right?
yeah. So I play chess with them a little bit, but
So I'd like to end this by asking all of you, if you don't collect KPIs and track them on a weekly, individually and collectively, I'd like to know if you will stop. And if we had a national program, would you agree, or would you go along with it? Because it's gonna be voluntary. And if not too many people would go along with it, and why would a contractor not go along with that? What would be the only reason?
Put you under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, accountability, maybe. Maybe they don't want anyone else to know. Maybe they feel a certain, I don't like sharing my numbers with the whole world either, but we do. We share it with our network. But it would be like all of us sharing. So not, because right now what you guys see is Pioneer's my beta. So you're seeing their numbers. That's all I can show you because that's all I know. How can I show what the network's doing? Because I don't ask you guys your numbers. But if we could come up with a simple, and I'm not telling all numbers, but maybe for sales and service, just start off with 2 KPIs that we can collectively track as an organization and maybe publish, every 3 months what they are or monthly. And if you guys want to do that, I'd be more than happy to set up a system.
see, the 2 is average dollar per lead, average dollar per stop.
Right.
The 2 easiest to start with.
So if you would feel comfortable in sharing your numbers, I think it would be, and if you're not, it's just like me, I didn't want to share my numbers when I had to take a picture of how fat I was. You know, you don't want to, it's kind of a little embarrassing, you know? But it's the only way you're going to get better, is to match yourself to your own, what you have done, and then what others, your peers, are doing. And I'll tell you what, it's a benefit to us, because once we did this, Mike, you would see things in other companies and look at these individuals and say, how are they doing this?
Yep.
And we want to know. See, now the whole network would benefit from collectively bringing all of our work together. All of us can benefit, right?
And it
So-
also holds your managers accountable too, the people that are internally running your organization, when they can comparatively see them, our organization next to 12 other ones, and if we're in last place or second to last place, we know like, oh shit, you know, we got to pick it up a little bit. If we're, you know, I just think I think it's a good thing. I would definitely get involved.
Okay, good.
You know, my two salesmen are like kids I grew up with since I was little kids. So, and the one's been with me since '07, the other one's like since 13. So the one is trying to outsell the other one, you know, who's doing better, yada, yada, yada. But they were like, Jerome, how do I make more money? I was like, well, look at my sheets. You'll see I'm always 10, 12, 13, 15,000 if I ever go to an estimate. But, you know, and then ever since I told him that, he just starts, because we do like 57 different things. So he was just like, starts filling out stuff, epoxy stuff, this, that, everything outside. Like, and some customers say, just give me everything. But if they don't see it in front of them, they can't buy it.
Right.
If you don't tell them about it, so spend an extra 15, 20 minutes with the customer and tell them about more stuff that we do. They have no clue. And then they'll never buy if you don't tell them or show them. So, and then his numbers jump like 1,500, 2,000. Stop.
Steve, one more point on the sales side before you jump from there, that sales guys, if you leave it to them, right, to put the numbers in, and it's like, well, I got there, I got to the house, I know you guys set the appointment and you talked to them on the phone, but when I got there, no, they didn't need our services, they didn't have it, no, it wasn't that bad, it wasn't, so I'm not gonna count that one. That one doesn't count in my numbers, don't count that one, because that wasn't, I didn't have a chance to sell that. And it's like, no, if we.
Do you know I actually make them give me numbers now 2 different ways because they were doing that to me? So now I have them give me the numbers with all of your thing that you take out because you don't think it counts. And then I got the numbers that are true.
Yeah,
And I look at the numbers that are true. The other one I don't really look at, but it makes them feel good.
we get two of them. No, we get 2 of them. It's total leads, period, even the ones that canceled on you, and then total actual appointments you sat down. So it's
Total
2 different
sits.
KPIs. Yeah. So if you see a big difference in between, hey, why does that guy have so many canceled appointments? Is
Yeah.
he canceling them?
If it's a
Yeah.
same day cancel, the way we
Yeah.
do it is like once the call center representative touches it, they own it.
Right.
So in other words, it counts towards or against that person's numbers.
Yeah.
So let's say it's Monday and I set an appointment for Jerome on Thursday and the appointment cancels on Wednesday, the salesperson is not held accountable for that. However, the call center rep that set the appointment is. So now once it's issued to this person, so
Right.
let's say it's Thursday morning and Jerome gets his leads on Thursday morning and it cancels at 1 o'clock and it's a 7 o'clock appointment, it counts against Jerome. Because Jerome needs to get to that house anyways and talk his way into it.
Right.
Because if I have to pay for the lead, I don't get a refund.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, so they don't get a
fine. That
refund
was
on
my
anything.
thing,
Once
though.
it's issued, it's either it's not. We used to do demo not sold or demo and sold,
Yep.
but now it's issued and not sold or issued and sold. So once it's issued, it's issued.
There's that third.
Issued,
I
not
knew of-
sold until it's sold.
I knew of a contractor that actually charged his salesman $100 for each appointment. When they ran the appointment, they got the $100 back.
Right.
If they didn't run the appointment or they said they canceled, that was on them. It's true. I know that guy that did that.
So one-leggers, it's a thing of the past. It's not the '60s. I mean, if you know, sell it. It might be a 2-call close. It might be a 3-call close. But if it's issued, it counts.
I like that.
Okay, so before I'm off, I did want to introduce, maybe Mike, you can help me here. There's
Yes.
some new people that I want to introduce to the rest of us.
So is Reed spray foam?
Yeah.
Right here.
Where are you
You guys
guys?
want to stand up?
Yeah, that's Josh.
Yes.